My real goal is to leave a legacy of change in the special education community. To do that, I had to find a voice bigger than just showing up in person.
You're listening to Xceptional Leaders, where we help you get your special idea out of your head, off the ground, and around the world so you can help more people. Welcome to the show. I'm Mei-Ling Chan, CEO of Xceptional Ed and the Xceptional Podcast Network. If you're interested in finding out how to go beyond the classroom to make a difference, then this episode is for you. Kathryn Witcher is a special education teacher with over 20 years experience teaching and supporting families. In addition to direct classroom education, speaking engagements, and a successful IEP consultation service, Kathryn is also a noted educator in the online space. She connects with and supports families worldwide as an international speaker and founder of the Master IEP Coach Mentorship and Network and the Special Education Inner Circle, where she focuses on the IEP process for parents, staff, and teams. Every week, she coaches hundreds of parents through the online IEP Help Center and is mentoring parents, teachers, and therapists to become IEP coaches in their local communities. Welcome, Kathryn.
Thank you so much for having me here.
I am so excited to have found you. I tell my listeners that I always am looking on Facebook and different groups and news information, news posts to find people like yourself who are really helping people with disabilities in a big way. And when I found your post, I believe it's in one of the groups that I'm involved in, which is very focused on online learning and subscription membership. And I was so excited to see someone with a special education background and reached out to you. And I was like, oh my gosh, we have to get you on the show. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to share with everyone.
It's fantastic. It's very unique what you're doing. So my first question is kind of big. How did you make the decision to actually leave the in-person consulting service, which I see as you going with a parent to an IEP meeting or doing in-services and teaching teams, and moving that to an online offering?
Yes. So as you mentioned, I've been doing this for over 20 years. So I'm well known in a lot of different areas for going to the IEP meetings, for teaching teachers, for educating parents, and my time simply got maxed out. And my real goal is to leave a legacy of change in the special education community. To do that, I had to find a voice bigger than just showing up in person. I had to figure out a way to create those positive ways of change in a way that I could reach more families, more teachers, and especially in the special education community. I also have a brother with Down syndrome, so I know what it's like to be a special needs family. It's hard to get out into the community a lot, and teachers are busy, and it's hard for them to get out. So that big switch for me came with really my time was maxed out. Everybody that I know, their time is maxed out. So how do I make this easier and reach more people?
It's fantastic because I think for a lot of us as educators that you feel like you need to be in the trenches, doing it there with your teams, specifically working with an IEP team or as an advocate. So for people who aren't familiar with this, you can become an advocate and work on the side of the parent and the student or child. At that point, you would go into the school district or go to whatever the meeting is and help to represent. And it sounds like you've had the experience of doing both sides. Is that correct?
Yes. So I was a teacher for a few years. And I was teaching by day, and then I was coaching parents at night on just the different jargon to use and how to communicate with the team and how they could really collaborate with myself and my own colleagues. And the demand just kind of grew from there, where I was helping parents in this collaborative way, and districts saw that and they said, hey, we really like these simple, common sense, yet not common practice strategies to solving these special education issues. Will you come teach our teams? So it evolved from helping parents into helping the entire team. So a lot of people will say, how do you work on both sides?
Yes.
Because there shouldn't be sides. It should be collaborative, even through the sticky conversations. So that's really where my work has been, is bringing solutions to those hot topics that often cause, bridges to burn on a team. And I'm looking to build those up. So again, just kind of moving this bigger message online and reaching more people just made sense.
So I see this also as like the training the trainer. I did see that you are helping people to become IEP coaches. So that leverages your ability to get out there, in person in those talks. But does that also give you competition locally?
It doesn't, because we have over 6.6 million kids that are in special education. I can't sit at Starbucks with every family and say, hey, go look for the parent input statement, or what does the data look like? Or, what's the speech therapist doing this quarter? I can't give every parent the right questions to ask by looking at their paperwork, but I can train other people to do that. So I've been asked for years of, can you teach me to do what you do? I want to work from home. I want to help families. And this is teachers asking me, and admins and therapists and fellow special needs parents. Everybody who sits at the IEP table gets it at some level where they're like, I want to dig in and help more.
Right.
So really, that's not building competition. That's building a community. And that's another piece of really bringing this information and training and services online, is that you can build a community at a whole different level. So I am not building competition. I'm building colleagues and community to create that change. That is that big picture impact that I'm looking to make.
I love that. Now, you went to schooling and you have a number of certificates. Can you tell me about that, your background education?
Sure. So being a special needs sibling, I watched my mom negotiate the school system for my brother. And I thought, I'm just going to solve all the special education issues and become a teacher and change the world from the inside of my classroom. And, it was this, well, why wouldn't this just work? So I go and I get a bachelor's degree and I get a master's degree, and I went all out and I get 5 different teaching certificates, and I can teach all these different areas. And then you get on the inside and you realize it's not that the teachers don't want to teach. It's not that the therapists don't want to serve. It's not even that the admins don't want to give more for an appropriate education. It's that the system is set up with a lot of red tape, and it's set up with a lot of broken paths behind the scenes. But if you know how to navigate those, and you know the right questions, and you know the right strategies to patch those paths and get through where you need to be, you can get a whole lot accomplished. So, I've seen an IEP from a family member point of view, with my brother. I've seen it as a teacher. I've sat as a parent advocate. I've sat as an inclusion specialist brought in by the district. So I've sat on all those different sides. So I started with the foundation of, really impacting in my classroom, but I knew quite quickly that my impact was outside of the classroom just in a different scale.
Okay, so building on that education, it sounds like you had all of the administrative level types of education. So understanding the system, understanding how to work with teams, coming at it from that personal perspective. What about that education path to bringing it online?
So that's a lot of self-teaching. And you know what? As an educator, it's fun. It is really fun to dig in and say, I'm gonna learn. And here's a sweet thing about taking your services online and digging in and learning. You get to really set up your own schedule and your own impact that you're making and your own curriculum. And that was really exciting to me. So I self-taught through online learning, which made sense because I was going to be teaching online. So I was a mom. I am a mom. As a mom for many, many years, I was a single mom. I have a daughter who had, significant medical challenges. I couldn't get out of the house. In fact, I was my ideal client. I can't get out of the house and I need more information. So I went to learning online. And now I'm implementing all of those skills to help everyone else on the IEP team.
Okay, so for our listener, when you decide to do something online, there is this whole learning process. However, there isn't a success path, or first you do this and then you do this. It really depends on what your interests are and what mediums you want to use. So can you share that with us? When you first started, where did you first start?
So many years ago, it was so different than what it is now. So first, let's just say right now, if you choose to jump online and start learning, it's much simpler, but then it also becomes a little bit more chaotic, meaning there are so many simple things out there that you could implement that it almost either becomes a random implementation of all these new skills and they don't all come together, or you don't implement anything because you're so overwhelmed. 10 years ago when I really started, building my own website. I was working from home as a mom, at that time. I'm building my own website, and I'm letting people know I'm available to speak, and I'm just putting my services online.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really the first step is how do you present yourself online to really show these are my skills. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm able to do. This is how I'm able to help. And then once you really establish kind of who you are and who you're putting out front, then you can start building that back end of serving more and setting up some really cool things for your, future clients and the families you're going to work with or the fellow teachers you're going to work with. And you can put all the bells and whistles on later. And I wish somebody would have kind of guided me in that, but there were no coaches to really take you from point A to point B, 10 years ago. So this is really where if you're going to make that switch from the classroom to online, you're going to want somebody who understands you to take you from point A to point B, set the foundation for you, and then add those bells and whistles.
Right. And there aren't people out there that are specifically saying, if you're in the special education disability niche community, that this is how you do it. And so we're like reaching out, and I'm sure you've heard about coaches like Amy Porterfield on how to do an online course, Richard Ronson talking about ClickFunnels. These are all like these newfangled things that we can do. You and I met, I believe, in Tribe, which is about subscription memberships. And then you have to take your own creativity and say, the general education is more about this large media, like how to use a camera, how to become a chef at home, and then we're drilling down into this very, very specific and I think rigid community of educators. So do you have that nagging feeling like I always do? Like you have spelling errors, you have grammar errors, this is the presentation doesn't really make sense. You're held to a higher standard when you're working with educators as your community or your target audience.
I think that's where I started. I can remember kind of feeling that, paralyzed by, is this good enough? Mm-hmm. Does this look good enough? How am I going to be judged? And, really through this journey of reaching, thousands of parents every month and, a Facebook page with 47,000 people on there, you just have to get over the typo. And here's the thing, it makes you human. And one of the best things you can do as an online educator is show people who you are, and you're not perfect and you're not living life through a filter, but you show the realness. Because when somebody looks a little too polished or a little too perfect, you might not relate quite as much. But if you're going to want to approach people through the screen and build this relationship with them, you got to show them who you are. Mm-hmm. And when I stopped worrying about every little indent not being exactly right, and I moved forward, we say a lot in our online education world, it's about progress, not perfection.
Yes.
So it's always just about moving forward. So do I want the typo there? No. Do I lose sleep over it? If I checked it 3 times and there's one typo left, I am not going to lose sleep when I see that there, 6 weeks later. I'll fix it for the next time.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. It actually brings me to building your brand. So again, you came to this as an expert in your area of IEP. How did you brand yourself? I mean, there are so many people out there working on IEPs, doing courses on IEPs, and you are now an expert, with IEP. So how did you actually create that brand for yourself?
It's really learning to share your story. And, inside of the Master IEP Coach Mentorship, this is where I'm training hundreds of coaches every year on how to really share what they do. And they're all doing something similar. It's not the same, but it's similar. So how do you differentiate and show that? It's about your story and your experience. So I'm always showcasing, yes, I have an education background. Yes, I'm a special needs sibling. Yes, I have all these different perspectives. So then I attract the people that are going to benefit from where I've been and where I'm going. My goal, and anybody's goal, when they're building an online brand, it's not to reach everyone. And that takes, a learning curve to realize, I'm not out there to help the 6.6 million kids all at once, but I want to help as many people become those master IEP coaches so they can share their story, so they can help their ideal family that they can get the best results for in that special education system. So brand building is all about showing who you are, what your journey is, and how you're going to help somebody get from point A to point B by sharing those stories.
Excellent. Excellent. And how long have you been doing this?
The special education inner circle is about 4 to 5 years old. So it was kind of right when all of the online programs for, there's a monthly fee, and parents come in and they get their Q&A and done, and they get monthly trainings, and they get this hands-on experience in a group setting at their convenience, like at home with their cup of coffee and yoga pants, or, sitting in a waiting room with their child. So that really launched 4 or 5 years ago. The Master IEP Coach Mentorship came after that. So that's, about 3 years old. And, it's really fun to be engaged with people on this monthly basis, where you're not hiring me for crisis help. Whether you're a teacher and your district brought me in because there's a crisis, or you're a parent and you brought me in for a crisis. Instead, this type of format allows us to be proactive instead of reactive.
Yes.
Which it's so important. And that's important in all of our special needs community. Whether you're talking, health, education, finances, any of these areas, it's so important for us to get out of that reaction mode and start learning and connecting with the communities that can give us the information to be proactive and build that lifestyle, build that just even from day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute, to not be in that panic mode as a special needs family.
Excellent. So this is a fee-based subscription membership, the master program, correct?
It is a course. So the Master IEP Coach Mentorship happens a couple times a year, where they come in and you'll work directly in a group setting online with me for 6 weeks. And then after that 6 weeks, if you say, yes, I'm in, I am a Master IEP coach who's going to be active in my community, then your next step is to come into the Master IEP Coach Network. And that's where IEP coaches are continuing their education, and they become part of our referral network. So we're building the first ever Master IEP Coach referral network to be a true resource. The goal is that, when a child is sick, you take them to the doctor. If they need, speech therapy, you go to a speech therapist. If you have an IEP, you should have an IEP coach. Excellent. So we're building that resource in there. So that is a course with a mentorship, and then the ongoing education referral network and connection and community to make that change. The special education inner circle works very similar, but that's for teachers and parents who say, you know what, I can't help other people right now. I'm not interested in working from home and building that piece. I got to take care of me. I have to take care of my classroom, my child, whatever your role is at that IEP table, you're really focused and dialed into making change for your immediate family or your immediate IEP team and classroom. And that's where the inner circle, you're really focused just on helping yourself, which is an awesome place to be.
Hey there, hope you're enjoying the show. I just wanted to take a moment and introduce you to another great podcast that you might like in the Xceptional Podcast Network.
Please listen carefully.
Hi, I'm Matt Hott, one of the hosts of Speech Science, a weekly podcast bringing you all the information that you can handle related to speech sciences and disabilities. Michelle Wintering, Michael McLeod, and I interview leaders and difference makers in the field. Every Tuesday, we drop a new episode. You can find us on iTunes, Android, and on our website, www.speechscience.org/Speech Science Podcast. Join us as we try to find the answers to the question,
what is communication?
Now let's get back to our amazing interview. So let me ask you, the inner circle, we're working with parents, teachers, people who have a limited financial budget. How did you make that transition to understanding how much you could charge for the value of what your services are and actually charging the value?
Sure. So that's something in the online space that becomes difficult, especially in the special needs community. A lot of times we just want to help, right? We just want to give. And I absolutely want to give. And there are a lot of free resources that I give, and there's a lot of support that I give outside of the inner circle. But to get that personal touch and to really come in and get that Q&A for yourself, there's a value to that goes beyond just, searching blogs and watching YouTube videos. And where I decided to set my pricing was to make it not a heavy choice for parents and for teachers and for therapists. So Currently, the membership is $27 a month. It will not be staying there very long. It has been there for 3 years, and I have not raised the price. And that is just because when you're in the online education and you're building your brand and you're getting your voice and you're doing those things, I was doing it all myself. So I was able to do that. What my community is actually very excited for is that I'm bringing in a team to serve them even more. So because I'm going to be able to serve them even more online, the fee will go up. So that's something that when you're an educator, you're a trainer, you're looking to make an impact outside of the classroom, don't underestimate yourself of the value that you're choosing, but it's okay to start where it's that decision of, I'm willing to put out $27 and see if I like this. And most of my members stay with me for years and years and years. And that's the difference. This is not like a different market where, people might come in for 6 or 8 months and learn everything they need to know and go. I wanted to keep the price point, and it always will be at the place where parents don't question, should I stay another month? Because they need to be there. Or teachers saying, I can't afford this because I have to go buy markers for my classroom. I want it to be at that point where they know they have people with them and they get personal attention.
Exactly. Now, how did you make the transition to doing this full time from the other paying income that you had?
So I really feel that it was a natural, flow as I continued to share with people, I'm helping you one-on-one, but I'd love for you to come and work with me online. And people loved it because no longer were they putting out, $300, $400, $500 to get me on the phone to ask a few questions, because they didn't necessarily need that level of support, but they didn't want to do it on their own either. So my first step was to take all of my in-person clients and families and teachers and say, come work with me. I've got something, so we don't have to disconnect because you don't have, hours of service with me. So I transferred everybody over that way first. And then I do a lot of speaking engagements, and people are always saying, how do I connect with you? Or they say, I don't need your services right now, but if I need you, I'll come find you. And I actually wanted to lower that barrier and say, you do need this, because you never should feel that crisis of, oh my goodness, I need help.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm connected. I have resources. And when I need to ask questions, I can go and get my answers. And in the meantime, I know I'm doing okay because I'm learning and I'm connecting with other people who are on the same journey as me.
Okay, so you're serving people in this online community. Is there a point when it's too much access to, where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm getting all of these questions and I have to field them, versus office hours?
So I have office hours inside of my inner circle and inside of the IEP Coach mentorship and network. There are absolute times where people know that I'm going to be live with them online. There, the rest of the time, people can leave questions in a Q&A thread. They can go watch the videos that are in their, private membership library. They can talk with other community members in there. So it doesn't become overwhelming for me. And I think that's a huge benefit that educators have when it comes to building services online and really following your passion that way and connecting with your ideal client and then building that community, is how to teach. And when you know how to run a classroom, this is just an online classroom. So there are specific, guidelines, just like we would have classroom rules, right? Back to elementary school, you have classroom rules, raise your hand, be respectful, help out your friend. Those are exactly the type of rules that we have online, and everybody's very respectful of my personal boundaries that I have. They know when I'm there, they know when I'm not, and they know that I will take care of them when I come back during those office hours. So any educator, special needs parent, anybody who has experience, leading in their community can lead online.
That brings me actually to the next question. Standing up and presenting in a room with your colleagues or in a small group of parents, that is actually a milestone in itself. Now, there's some people have the issue with public speaking, but as an educator, you can talk to fifth graders all day long and, you know how to control the room and all of that. What about moving that to the video platform? How are you with moving there?
I loved that piece. So when we first started video, we were recording, from our computer or from our old iPhone, and there was no going live. There was, it was just like record it and post it up and cross your fingers that everything turned out okay. Right. So now with, being able to go Instagram Live and Facebook Live and, going live inside of the private communities of everybody who's part of that inner circle and Master IEP Coach network, it just becomes a conversation. So it's once you get used to, where to look in your camera,
Yes.
on the phone, so you don't look like you're looking off to the side, or, where to look on your computer. Once you figure where to look at and you just feel yourself like in a coffee shop kind of environment and you're connecting with your people, it is a great and quite easy transition if you let it be, if you don't overthink it.
Yeah, that brings me back to when you were talking about just transparency of who you are and what your purpose is and who you're serving. It's really important that you get out of your own head and, stop worrying about what you look like and the things that you're saying or not saying, because all of that self-talk stops you from the real mission of why you're going live. Did you have any tips or anything for people who are moving into that stage, like the Facebook Live, Instagram Live? There's so many platforms now.
Yes. So you have to remember that your message is going to have to be bigger than your fear. So you have to be really passionate about what you're going to talk about. This is something that, some people say, I can't go Facebook Live, I can't go Instagram Live. And I said, do you love what you're going to talk about?
Right.
Are you ready to serve the people that you're going to talk to? Okay, they are more important than you worrying about your hair or, the conversation being perfect or, a mess up of a word or whatever that fear is. And here's the thing, what's the worst thing that's going to happen if you do that? You always have the power to delete. You always have the power to stop. The world's not going to come to an end. So it's one of those things that you just have to constantly remind yourself. And I'm still doing this now. I have a large audience that, I have on Facebook and Instagram and email newsletters and all of those things. And sometimes I even hesitate. I go, you know what? I'm going to share something with the group. Are they going to like it? And then, yeah, they are. So even if it's a little vulnerable for me, it lets them see who I am, or it's a teaching point that maybe it's a teaching point, something that I discovered as a special needs sibling, or maybe I'm sharing with my master IEP coaches. For them, you can see like, nice background here, for video or that's behind me, or you can see that I have a nice microphone in front of me and I will show them the mess behind the scenes with that. And that's so important. So just remember, anybody who is fearful about what are people going to think of me, your message is more important than what maybe a few people are going to judge you on.
I love that. How do you keep the info fresh and new? So if you have people that are with you for years, aren't you going to be recovering topics or readdressing topics that you've done the year before? Or how do you keep everyone, I guess, plugged in?
So in the special education community specifically, everything changes every year for every family. And the same thing happens for teachers. Teachers' caseloads change. They have new struggles. Parents are moving from elementary school to middle school. That's a whole other struggle. But even going from first grade to second grade or seventh grade to eighth grade, there's always new developmental milestones. There might be health challenges. Maybe they've moved. We're always in a state of change in our special needs community, which makes it even more important for them to stay connected, because I get to know my members that are in there. I might not know every detail about their lives or their IEP or what's going on, but I know, when they're in a struggle and, what's happening. So they might go through and watch a training about IEP goals and how to write some real world IEP goals, but writing those for a second grader is different than writing them for a fourth grader. So they can go back and watch it. And that's really a joy of putting information online, especially as an educator, because I've already recorded it, which means that they can go back and watch it, apply it to where they're at, and then I'm in real time available for Q&A to help them apply it to where they're at.
That's right. And they've actually seen that there was this huge surgence of online courses. And we also had that obviously for professional development, for maintenance of our licensure, our professional licensure. But there's always been this feeling of now have this great list or all these notes or all these resources, but how do I apply them on Monday morning when I go back to my classroom?
Yeah, so that's exactly what, a membership or an online community, you are investing in being with people who get you and can help you apply. So you cut your learning curve. And that's really our job as online educators. It's to cut the learning curve and help people, get what they need out of whatever we're teaching about. So whether it's, for speech therapy, occupational therapy, IEP goal writing, it's about saying, you know what, I've been there, I've done that, let me show you. And then if you need help, let me show you some more.
Excellent. So you have the online courses, you have the master's class. What is your next step? What are your goals for you for this next year?
So the next step is really to continue building those two communities that are really strong. They have a great foundation. I've got some really great leaders, and it's really fun to develop leaders. As an online leader, to develop more leaders is fuel for whatever your message or your mission is. So I've got some really great leaders that are developing within those communities. So it's really to grow. Again, there's millions of kids that are in special education. My job is never going to be done. So to really double down on the goodness that we're seeing, the progress that we're seeing, the change that we're seeing, I always say that I go back to the basics of the entire purpose of an IEP is to prepare for further education, employment, and independent living.
Yes.
That is part of the special education federal law. I'm not a lawyer, but you can read it for yourself. That it says, it's to prepare for further education, employment, independent living. That job is never going to be done. So it's doubling down on educating as many people as possible so we have that ongoing impact in individual communities.
Excellent. And that is the ripple effect that we're looking for. And legacy, of course, from your efforts, you're helping so many other people and it's just compounded. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Kathryn. How do we stay in touch with you and connect with you?
Well, I would love to have you come join me over at kathrynwitcher.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at Kathryn Witcher all the time. There's always free IEP checklists. There's Master IEP Coach information that's available. So don't hesitate to reach out on any one of those platforms, and I will get you the resources you need for special education.
Excellent. Thank you so much. This is really exciting. And I really hope that everyone else that's listening is thinking about ways that they can move to online because you can have such a bigger reach, and you're a perfect example of that.
Thank you so much.
Do you have an idea, or are you at the beginning stages of creating? I invite you to connect with me directly to chat and brainstorm about your amazing ideas to help more people with disabilities at may.ling@maylingchan.com. Because that's what I do at maylingchan.com, sharing 10 years of my experience of building disability-focused businesses as a direct consultant to you. There's also a free ebook there for you, 3 secrets to help more people with disabilities and make more money. Because yes, you need to think about having more resources to make an even bigger impact. So go grab that book, and then let's talk about what your next steps are.
You're listening to the Xceptional Podcast Network.